Bali is an island and province of Indonesia, and includes a few smaller neighbouring islands, notably Nusa Penida. It is located at the westernmost end of the Lesser Sunda Islands, between Java to the west and Lombok to the east. Its capital of Denpasar is located at the southern part of the island. With a population of 3,890,757 in the 2010 census, and currently 4,225,000. The island is home to most of Indonesia's Hindu minority. According to the 2010 census, 84.5% of Bali's population adhered to Balinese Hinduism, 12% to Islam, and most of the remainder followed Christianity. Bali is the largest tourist destination in the country and is renowned for its highly developed arts, including traditional and modern dance, sculpture, painting, leather, metalworking, and music. Since the late 20th century, the province has had a rise in tourism. Bali is part of the Coral Triangle, the area with the highest biodiversity of marine species. In this area alone over 500 reef-building coral species can be found. For comparison, this is about 7 times as many as in the entire Caribbean. There is a wide range of dive sites with high-quality reefs, all with their own specific attractions. Many sites can have strong currents and swell, so diving without a knowledgeable guide is unadvisable. Most recently, Bali was the host of the 2011 ASEAN Summit, 2013 APEC and Miss World 2013. History. Bali was inhabited around 2000 BC by Austronesian people who migrated originally from Southeast Asia and Oceania through maritime Southeast Asia. Culturally and linguistically, the Balinese are closely related to the people of the Indonesian archipelago, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Oceania. Stone tools dating from this time have been found near the village of Kekik in the island's west. In ancient Bali, 9 Hindu sects existed, namely Pasupata, Bhairawa, Saiwa Siddhanta, Vaisnava, Buddha, Brahma, Resi, Sura and Ganapatya. Each sect revered a specific deity as its personal godhead. Balinese culture was strongly influenced by Indian, Chinese, and particularly Hindu culture, beginning around the 1st century AD. The name Bali Dwapa has been discovered from various inscriptions, including the Blanjong pillar inscription written by Sri Khazari Warmdwa in 914 AD and mentioning Wala Dwapa. It was during this time that the people developed their complex irrigation system Subak to grow rice in wet field cultivation. Some religious and cultural traditions still practiced today can be traced to this period. The Hindu Majapahit Empire on eastern Java founded a Balinese colony in 1343. When the empire declined, there was an exodus of intellectuals, artists, priests, and musicians from Java to Bali in the 15th century. The first European contact with Bali is thought to have been made in 1585 when a Portuguese ship foundered off the Bukit Peninsula and left a few Portuguese in the service of Dewar Agung. In 1597 the Dutch explorer Cornelis de Houtman arrived at Bali and, the Dutch East India Company was established in 1602. The Dutch government expanded its control across the Indonesian archipelago during the second half of the 19th century. Dutch political and economic control over Bali began in the 1840s on the island's north coast, when the Dutch pitted various competing Balinese realms against each other. In the late 1890s, struggles between Balinese kingdoms in the island's south were exploited by the Dutch to increase their control. In June 1860 the famous Welsh naturalist, Alfred Russel Wallace, travelled to Bali from Singapore, landing at Bililing on the north coast of the island. Wallace's trip to Bali was instrumental in helping him devise his Wallace Line theory. The Wallace Line is a faunal boundary that runs through the strait between Bali and Lombok. It has been found to be a boundary between species of Asiatic origin in the east and a mixture of Australian and Asian species to the west. In his travel memoir The Malay Archipelago, Wallace wrote of his experience in Bali. "I was both astonished and delighted. For as my visit to Java was some years later, I had never beheld so beautiful and well-cultivated a district out of Europe. A slightly undulating plain extends from the seacoast about 10 or 12 miles inland, where it is bounded by a fine range of wooded and cultivated hills. Houses and villages, marked out by dense clumps of coconut palms, tamarind and other fruit trees, are dotted about in every direction. While between them extend luxurious rice grounds, watered by an elaborate system of irrigation that would be the pride of the best cultivated parts of Europe. The Dutch mounted large naval and ground assaults at the Sanna region in 1906 and were met by the thousands of members of the royal family and their followers who fought against the superior Dutch force in a suicidal Pupatan defensive assault rather than face the humiliation of surrender. Despite Dutch demands for surrender, an estimated 200 Balinese marched to their death against the invaders. In the Dutch intervention in Bali, a similar massacre occurred in the face of a Dutch assault in Klungkung. Afterward the Dutch governors exercised administrative control over the island, but local control over religion and culture generally remained intact. Dutch rule over Bali came later and was never as well established as in other parts of Indonesia such as Java and Maluku. In the 1930s, anthropologists Margaret Mead and Gregory Bateson, artists Miguel Covarrubias and Walter Spies, and musicologist Colin McPhee all spent time here. Their accounts of the island and its peoples created a Western image of Bali as an enchanted land of aesthetes at peace with themselves and nature. Western tourists began to visit the island. Imperial Japan occupied Bali during World War II. It was not originally a target in their Netherlands East Indies campaign, but as the airfields on Borneo were inoperative due to heavy rains, the Imperial Japanese Army decided to occupy Bali, which did not suffer from comparable weather. The island had no regular Royal Netherlands East Indies Army troops. There was only a native auxiliary corps Praejuda consisting of about 600 native soldiers and several Dutch KNIL officers under command of KNIL Lieutenant Colonel W. P. Woudenberg. On February 19, 1942 the Japanese forces landed near the town of Senna. The island was quickly captured. During the Japanese occupation, a Balinese military officer, Agustin Gurari, formed a Balinese Freedom Army. The lack of institutional changes and the harshness of war requisitions made Japanese rule worse than the Dutch one. Following Japan's Pacific surrender in August 1945, the Dutch returned to Indonesia, including Bali, to reinstate their pre-war colonial administration. This was resisted by the Balinese rebels, who now used recovered Japanese weapons. On November 20, 1946, the Battle of Marga was fought in Tabanan in central Bali. Colonel Agustin Gurari, by then 29 years old, finally rallied his forces in East Bali at Margarana, where they made a suicide attack on the heavily armed Dutch. The Balinese battalion was entirely wiped out, breaking the last thread of Balinese military resistance. In 1946 the Dutch constituted Bali as one of the 13 administrative districts of the newly proclaimed state of East Indonesia, a rival state to the Republic of Indonesia, which was proclaimed and headed by Sukarno and Hatta. Bali was included in the Republic of the United States of Indonesia, when the Netherlands recognized Indonesian independence on December 29, 1949. The 1963 eruption of Mount Agung killed thousands, created economic havoc and forced many displaced Balinese to be transmigrated to other parts of Indonesia. Mirroring the widening of social divisions across Indonesia in the 1950s and early 1960s, Bali saw conflict between supporters of the traditional caste system, and those rejecting this system. Politically, the opposition was represented by supporters of the Indonesian Communist Party and the Indonesian Nationalist Party, with tensions and ill-feeling further increased by the PKI's land reform programs. An attempted coup in Jakarta was put down by forces led by General Suharto. The army became the dominant power as it instigated a violent anti-communist purge, in which the army blamed the PKI for the coup. Most estimates suggest that at least 500,000 people were killed across Indonesia, with an estimated 80,000 killed in Bali, equivalent to 5% of the island's population. With no Islamic forces involved as in Java and Sumatra, upper caste PNI landlords led the extermination of PKI members. As a result of the 1965-66 upheavals, Suharto was able to maneuver Sukarno out of the presidency. His New Order government re-established relations with Western countries. The pre-war Bali as paradise was revived in a modern form. The resulting large growth in tourism has led to a dramatic increase in Balinese standards of living and significant foreign exchange earned for the country. A bombing in 2002 by militant Islamists in the tourist area of Kita killed 202 people, mostly foreigners. This attack, and another in 2005, severely reduced tourism, producing much economic hardship to the island. Geography. The island of Bali lies 3.2 km east of Java, and is approximately 8 degrees south of the equator. Bali and Java are separated by the Bali Strait. East to west, the island is approximately 153 km wide and spans approximately 112 km north to south. Administratively it covers 5,780 km2, or 5,577 km2 without Nusa Penida district. Its population density is roughly 750 people km2. Bali's central mountains include several peaks over 3,000 meters in elevation. The highest is Mount Agung, known as the Mother Mountain, which is an active volcano. Mountains range from center to the eastern side, with Mount Agung the easternmost peak. Bali's volcanic nature has contributed to its exceptional fertility, and its tall mountain ranges provide the high rainfall that supports the highly productive agriculture sector. South of the mountains is a broad, steadily descending area where most of Bali's large rice crop is grown. The northern side of the mountains slopes more steeply to the sea and is the main coffee-producing area of the island, along with rice, vegetables and cattle. The longest river, Awang River, flows approximately 75 km. The island is surrounded by coral reefs. Beaches in the south tend to have white sand while those in the north and west have black sand. Bali has no major waterways, although the Ho River is navigable by small sampan boats. Black sand beaches between Pasat and Klating Dwaku are being developed for tourism, but apart from the seaside temple of Tanalot, they are not yet used for significant tourism. The largest city is the provincial capital, Denpasar, near the southern coast. Its population is around 491,500. Bali's second largest city is the old colonial capital, Singaraja, which is located on the north coast and is home to around 100,000 people. Other important cities include the beach resort, Kita, which is practically part of Denpasar's urban area, and Ubud, situated at the north of Denpasar, is the island's cultural center. 3 small islands lie to the immediate southeast and all are administratively part of the Kelungkung Regency of Bali, Nusa Penida, Nusa Lembongan and Nusa Saningan. These islands are separated from Bali by the Badung Strait. To the east, the Lombok Strait separates Bali from Lombok and marks the biogeographical division between the fauna of the Indo-Malayan ecozone and the distinctly different fauna of Australasia. The transition is known as the Wallace Line, named after Alfred Russel Wallace, who first proposed a transition zone between these two major biomes. When sea levels dropped during the Pleistocene Ice Age, Bali was connected to Java and Sumatra and to the mainland of Asia and shared the Asian fauna, but the deep water of the Lombok Strait continued to keep Lombok Island and the Lesser Sunda Archipelago isolated. Ecology. Bali lies just to the west of the Wallace Line, and thus has a fauna that is Asian in character, with very little Australasian influence, and has more in common with Java than with Lombok. An exception is the yellow-crested cockatoo, a member of a primarily Australasian family. There are around 280 species of birds, including the critically endangered Bali starling, which is endemic. Others include barn swallow, black-naped oriole, black racket-tailed troopy, crested serpent eagle, crested tree swift, dollar bird, Java sparrow, lesser adjutant, long-tailed shrike, milky stork, Pacific swallow, red-rumped swallow, sacred kingfisher, sea eagle, wood swallow, savannah nightjar, stork-billed kingfisher, yellow-vented bible, white heron, great egret. Until the early 20th century, Bali was home to several large mammals, the wild banteng, leopard and the endemic Bali tiger. The banteng still occurs in its domestic form, whereas leopards are found only in neighbouring Java, and the Bali tiger is extinct. The last definite record of a tiger on Bali dates from 1937, when one was shot, though the subspecies may have survived until the 1940s or 1950s. The relatively small size of the island, conflict with humans, poaching and habitat reduction drove the Bali tiger to extinction. This was the smallest and rarest of all tiger subspecies and was never caught on film or displayed in zoos, whereas few skins or bones remain in museums around the world. Today, the largest mammals are the Javan rosa deer and the wild boar. A second, smaller species of deer, the Indian muntjac, also occurs. Saltwater crocodiles were once present on the island, but became locally extinct sometime during the last century. Squirrels are quite commonly encountered, less often is the Asian palm civet, which is also kept in coffee farms to produce kopi luwak. Bats are well represented, perhaps the most famous place to encounter them remaining the Goa Law, where they are worshipped by the locals and also constitute a tourist attraction. They also occur in other cave temples, for instance at Ganga Beach. Two species of monkey occur. The crab-eating macaque, known locally as kira, is quite common around human settlements and temples, where it becomes accustomed to being fed by humans, particularly in any of the three monkey forest temples, such as the popular one in the Ubud area. They are also quite often kept as pets by locals. The second monkey, endemic to Java and some surrounding islands such as Bali, is far rarer and more elusive is the Javan langur, locally known as lutung. They occur in few places apart from the Bali Barat National Park. They are born in orange color, though by their first year they would have already changed to a more blackish coloration. In Java, however, there is more of a tendency for this species to retain its juvenile orange color into adulthood, and so you can see a mixture of black and orange monkeys together as a family. Other rarer mammals include the leopard cat, Sunda pangolin and black giant squirrel. Snakes include the king cobra and reticulated python. The water monitor can grow to at least 1.5 am in length and 50 kg and can move quickly. The rich coral reefs around the coast, particularly around popular diving spots such as Talimban, Amd, Menjangan or neighbouring Nusa Penida, host a wide range of marine life, for instance hawksbill turtle, giant sunfish, giant manta ray, giant murray eel, bumphead parrotfish, hammerhead shark, reef shark, barracuda, and sea snakes. Dolphins are commonly encountered on the north coast near Singaraja and Lovina. A team of scientists conducted a survey from April 29, 2011 to May 11, 2011 at 33 sea sites around Bali. They discovered 952 species of reef fish, of which 8 were new discoveries at Pemutaran, Gilimanuk, Nusa Dua, Talimban and Candidasa, and 393 coral species, including 2 new ones at Padangbayan between Padangbayan and Amd. The average coverage level of healthy coral was 36%, with the highest coverage found in Gili Selang and Gili Mampang in Candidasa, Krangasem Regency. Many plants have been introduced by humans within the last centuries, particularly since the 20th century, making it sometimes hard to distinguish what plants are really native. Among the larger trees, the most common are banyan trees, jackfruit, coconuts, bamboo species, acacia trees and also endless rows of coconuts and banana species. Numerous flowers can be seen: hibiscus, frangipani, bougainvillea, poinsettia, oleander, jasmine, water lily, lotus, roses, begonias, orchids and hydrangeas exist. On higher grounds that receive more moisture, for instance around Kintamani, certain species of fern trees, mushrooms and even pine trees thrive well. Rice comes in many varieties. Other plants with agricultural value include suluk, mangosteen, corn, Kintamani orange, coffee and water spinach. Environment. Some of the worst erosion has occurred in Leba Beach, where up to 7 meters of land is lost every year. Decades ago, this beach was used for holy pilgrimages with more than 10,000 people, but they have now moved to Maysiti Beach. From rank 3rd in previous review, in 2010 Bali got score 99.65 of Indonesia's Environmental Quality Index and the highest of all the 33 provinces. The score measured 3 water quality parameters: the level of total suspended solids, dissolved oxygen and chemical oxygen demand. Because of over-exploitation by the tourist industry which covers a massive land area, 200 out of 400 rivers on the island have dried up, and based on research, the southern part of Bali would face a water shortage up to 2,500 litres of clean water per second by 2015. To ease the shortage, the central government plans to build a water catchment and processing facility at Pitanu River in Gianyar. The 300 litres capacity of water per second will be channeled to Denpasar, Badung and Gianyar in 2013. Administrative divisions: the province is divided into 8 regencies and 1 city. These are: economy. 3 decades ago, the Balinese economy was largely agriculture-based in terms of both output and employment. Tourism is now the largest single industry in terms of income, and as a result, Bali is one of Indonesia's wealthiest regions. In 2003, around 80% of Bali's economy was tourism-related. By end of June 2011, non-performing loan of all banks in Bali were 2.23%, lower than the average of Indonesian banking industry non-performing loan. The economy, however, suffered significantly as a result of the terrorist bombings 2002 and 2005. The tourism industry has since recovered from these events. Agriculture. Although tourism produces the GDP's largest output, agriculture is still the island's biggest employer. Most notably rice cultivation. Crops grown in smaller amounts include fruit, vegetables, coffee arabica and other cash and subsistence crops. Fishing also provides a significant number of jobs. Bali is also famous for its artisans who produce a vast array of handicrafts, including batik and ikat cloth and clothing, wooden carvings, stone carvings, painted art and silverware. Notably, individual villages typically adopt a single product, such as wind chimes or wooden furniture. The Arabica coffee production region is the highland region of Kintamani near Mount Bata. Generally, Balinese coffee is processed using the wet method. This results in a sweet, soft coffee with good consistency. Typical flavors include lemon and other citrus notes. Many coffee farmers in Kintamani are members of a traditional farming system called Subak Abayan, which is based on the Hindu philosophy of Trihita Karana. According to this philosophy, the 3 causes of happiness are good relations with God, other people and the environment. The Subak Abayan system is ideally suited to the production of fair trade and organic coffee production. Arabica coffee from Kintamani is the first product in Indonesia to request a geographical indication. Tourism. The tourism industry is primarily focused in the south, while significant in the other parts of the island as well. The main tourist locations are the town of Kuta, and its outer suburbs of Legian and Seminyak, the east coast town of Sana, in the center of the island Ubud, to the south of Ngurah International Airport, Jimbaran, and the newer development of Nusa Dua and Pekachu. The American government lifted its travel warnings in 2008. The Australian government last issued an advice on Friday, 4 May 2012. The overall level of the advice was lowered to exercise a high degree of caution. The Swedish government issued a new warning on Sunday, 10 June 2012 because of one more tourist who has been killed by methanol poisoning. An offshoot of tourism is the growing real estate industry. Bali real estate has been rapidly developing in the main tourist areas of Kuta, Legian, Seminyak and Oberoi. Most recently, high-end 5-star projects are under development on the Bukit Peninsula, on the south side of the island. $1 million villas are being developed along the cliff sides of South Bali, commanding panoramic ocean views. Foreign and domestic investment into other areas of the island also continues to grow. Land prices, despite the worldwide economic crisis, have remained stable. In the last half of 2008, Indonesia's currency had dropped approximately 30% against the US dollar, providing many overseas visitors value for their currencies. Visitor arrivals for 2009 were forecast to drop 8%, due to the worldwide economic crisis which has also affected the global tourist industry, but not due to any travel warnings. Bali's tourism economy survived the terrorist bombings of 2002 and 2005, and the tourism industry has in fact slowly recovered and surpassed its pre-terrorist bombing levels. The long-term trend has been a steady increase of visitor arrivals. In 2010, Bali received 2.57 million foreign tourists, which surpassed the target of 2.3 million tourists. The average occupancy of stud hotels achieved 65%, so the island is still able to accommodate tourists for some years without any addition of new rooms hotels, although at the peak season some of them are fully booked. Bali received the Best Island Award from Travel and Leisure in 2010. The island of Bali won because of its attractive surroundings, diverse tourist attractions, excellent international and local restaurants, and the friendliness of the local people. According to BBC Travel released in 2011, Bali is one of the world's best islands, ranking second after Greece. In August 2010, a film version of Eat, Pray, Love was released in theaters. The movie was based on Elizabeth Gilbert's best-selling memoir of the same name. It took place at Ubud and Padang Beach at Bali. The 2006 book, which spent 57 weeks at the #1 spot on the New York Times paperback non-fiction bestseller list, had already fueled a boom in EPL tourism in Ubud, the hill town and cultural and tourist center that was the focus of Gilbert's quest for balance through traditional spirituality and healing that leads to love. Since 2011, China has displaced Japan as the second largest supplier of tourists to Bali, while Australia still tops the list. Chinese tourists increased by 17% from last year due to the impact of ACFTA and new direct flights to Bali. In January 2012, Chinese tourists year-on-year increased by 222.18% compared to January 2011, while Japanese tourists declined by 23.54% year. Bali reported that it has 2.88 million foreign tourists and 5 million domestic tourists in 2012, marginally surpassing the expectations of 2.8 million foreign tourists. Forecasts for 2013 are at 3.1 million. Based on Bank Indonesia survey in May 2013, 34.39% of tourists are upper middle class with spending between $1,286 to $5,592 and dominated by Australia, France, China, Germany and the US, with some China tourists move from low spending before to higher spending currently. While 30.26% are middle class with spending between $662 to $1,285. Transportation. The Ngurah International Airport is located near Jimbaran, on the isthmus at the southernmost part of the island. Lieutenant Colonel Wisnu Airfield is found in northwest Bali. A coastal road circles the island, and 3 major 2-lane arteries cross the central mountains at passes reaching to 1,750 m in height. The Ngurah bypass is a 4-lane expressway that partly encircles Denpasar and enables cars to travel quickly in the heavily populated south. Bali has no railway lines yet. December 2010, the government of Indonesia has invited investors to build Tuna Ampo cruise terminal at Krangasem, Bali amounted $30 a million. In July 17, 2011, the first cruise ship anchored about 400 meters away from the wharf of Tuna Ampo Harbour. The current pier is only 154 meters and will eventually be 300 to 350 meters to accommodate international cruise ships. The harbour would be safer than Binawa and has a scenic backdrop of a panoramic view of mountainous area with green rice fields. By December 2011 the auction process will be settled and Tuna Ampo is predicted to become the main hub for cruise ships in Indonesia by 2013. A memorandum of understanding has been signed by 2 ministers, Bali's governor and Indonesian train company, to build 565 kilometers of railway along the coast around the island. It should be operating by 2015. On March 16, 2011, Binawa Port received the Best Port Welcome 2010 award from London's Dream World Cruise Destination magazine. Government plans to expand the role of Binawa Port as export-import port to boost Bali's trade and industry sector. The Tourism and Creative Economy Ministry has confirmed that 306 cruise liners are heading for Indonesia in 2013, an increase of 43% compared to the previous year. On May 2011, an integrated aerial traffic control system was implemented to reduce traffic jams at 4 crossing points, Ngurah Statue, Dewar Rusi Kita Crossing, Jimbaran Crossing and Sana Crossing. ATCS is an integrated system connecting all traffic lights, CCTVs and other traffic signals with a monitoring office at the police headquarters. It has successfully been implemented in other ASEAN countries and will be implemented at other crossings in Bali. On December 21, 2011, construction started on the Nusa Penida Ngurah International Airport toll road, which will also provide a special lane for motorcycles. This has been done by 7 state-owned enterprises led by PT Jasa Marga with 60% of shares. PT Jasa Marga Bali Toll will construct the 9.91 km toll road. The construction is estimated to cost Rs 2.49 trillion. The project goes through 2 km of mangrove forest and through 2.3 km of beach, both within 5.4 hectares area. The elevated toll road is built over the mangrove forest on 18,000 concrete pillars which occupied 2 hectares of mangroves forest. It compensated by new planting of 300,000 mangrove trees along the road. On December 21, 2011, the Dewar Rusi 450 meters underpass has also started on the busy Dewar Rusi junction near Bali Kita Galeria with an estimated cost of Rs 136 billion from the state budget. On September 23, 2013, the Bali Mandara toll road is opened and the Dewar Rusi junction underpass is opened before. Both are ease the heavy traffic congestion. To solve chronic traffic problems, the province will also build a toll road connecting Serangan with Tohpeti, a toll road connecting Kita, Denpasar and Tohpeti and a flyover connecting Kita and Ngurah Airport. Demographics: the population of Bali was 3,890,757 as of the 2010 census. The latest estimate is 4,225,384. There are an estimated 30,000 expatriates living in Bali. Ethnic origins: a DNA study in 2005 by Carafat al. found that 12% of Balinese Y chromosomes are of likely Indian origin, while 84% are of likely Austronesian origin, and 2% of likely Melanesian origin. The study does not correlate the DNA samples to the Balinese caste system. Caste system: Bali has a caste system based on the Indian Hindu model, with 4 castes, Swudra, Shudra, peasants constituting close to 93% of Bali's population. Asya the caste of merchants and administrative officials, Kshatriyas the kingly and warrior caste, Brahmana, Brahman, holy men and priests. Religion: unlike most of Muslim-majority Indonesia, about 83.5% of Bali's population adheres to Balinese Hinduism, formed as a combination of existing local beliefs and Hindu influences from mainland Southeast Asia and South Asia. Minority religions include Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism. These figures do not include immigrants from other parts of Indonesia. Balinese Hinduism is an amalgam in which gods and demigods are worshipped together with Buddhist heroes, the spirits of ancestors, indigenous agricultural deities and sacred places. Religion as it is practiced in Bali is a composite belief system that embraces not only theology, philosophy, and mythology, but ancestor worship, animism and magic. It pervades nearly every aspect of traditional life. Caste is observed, though less strictly than in India. With an estimated 20,000 puras and shrines, Bali is known as the Island of 1,000 Puras, or Island of the Gods. Balinese Hinduism has roots in Indian Hinduism and in Buddhism, and adopted the animistic traditions of the indigenous people. This influence strengthened the belief that the gods and goddesses are present in all things. Every element of nature, therefore, possesses its own power, which reflects the power of the gods. A rock, tree, dagger, or woven cloth is a potential home for spirits whose energy can be directed for good or evil. Balinese Hinduism is deeply interwoven with art and ritual. Ritualizing states of self-control are a notable feature of religious expression among the people, who for this reason have become famous for their graceful and decorous behavior. Apart from the majority of Balinese Hindus, there also exist Chinese immigrants whose traditions have melded with that of the locals. As a result, these Sino-Balinese not only embrace their original religion, which is a mixture of Buddhism, Christianity, Taoism and Confucianism, but also find a way to harmonize it with the local traditions. Hence, it is not uncommon to find local Sino-Balinese during the local temple's Odalan. Moreover, Balinese Hindu priests are invited to perform rites alongside a Chinese priest in the event of the death of a Sino-Balinese. Nevertheless, the Sino-Balinese claim to embrace Buddhism for administrative purposes, such as their identity cards. Language: Balinese and Indonesian are the most widely spoken languages in Bali, and the vast majority of Balinese people are bilingual or trilingual. The most common spoken language around the tourist areas is Indonesian, as many people in the tourist sector are not solely Balinese, but migrants from Java, Lombok, Sumatra, and other parts of Indonesia. There are several indigenous Balinese languages, but most Balinese can also use the most widely spoken option, Modern Common Balinese. The usage of different Balinese languages was traditionally determined by the Balinese caste system and by clan membership, but this tradition is diminishing. Kawi and Sanskrit are also commonly used by some Hindu priests in Bali, for Hinduism literature was mostly written in Sanskrit. English is a common third language of many Balinese, owing to the requirements of the tourism industry. Other foreign languages, such as Chinese, Japanese, Korean, French or German are often used in multilingual signs for foreign tourists. Culture: Bali is renowned for its diverse and sophisticated art forms, such as painting, sculpture, woodcarving, handcrafts, and performing arts. Balinese cuisine is also distinctive. Balinese percussion orchestra music, known as gamelan, is highly developed and varied. Balinese performing arts often portray stories from Hindu epics such as the Ramayana but with heavy Balinese influence. Famous Balinese dances include pendit, legong, baris, topeng, barong, gong kiba, and kak. Bali boasts one of the most diverse and innovative performing arts cultures in the world, with paid performances at thousands of temple festivals, private ceremonies, or public shows. The Hindu New Year, Nyepi, is celebrated in the spring by a day of silence. On this day everyone stays at home and tourists are encouraged to remain in their hotels. On the day before New Year, large and colorful sculptures of ago-ago monsters are paraded and finally burned in the evening to drive away evil spirits. Other festivals throughout the year are specified by the Balinese Pawukon calendrical system. Celebrations are held for many occasions such as a tooth filing, cremation or Odalan. One of the most important concepts that Balinese ceremonies have in common is that of dar copyright zar kalapatra, which refers to how ritual performances must be appropriate in both the specific and general social context. Many of the ceremonial art forms such as wayang kulit and topeng are highly improvisatory, providing flexibility for the performer to adapt the performance to the current situation. Many celebrations call for a loud, boisterous atmosphere with lots of activity and the resulting aesthetic, Rama copyright, is distinctively Balinese. Often two or more gamelan ensembles will be performing well within earshot, and sometimes compete with each other to be heard. Likewise, the audience members talk amongst themselves, get up and walk around, or even cheer on the performance, which adds to the many layers of activity and the liveliness typical of Rama copyright. Kajar and Kalod are the Balinese equivalents of north and south, which refer to one's orientation between the island's largest mountain Gunung Agung, and the sea. In addition to spatial orientation, Kajar and Kalod have the connotation of good and evil. Gods and ancestors are believed to live on the mountain whereas demons live in the sea. Buildings such as temples and residential homes are spatially oriented by having the most sacred spaces closest to the mountain and the unclean places nearest to the sea. Most temples have an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard which are arranged with the inner courtyard furthest Kajar. These spaces serve as performance venues since most Balinese rituals are accompanied by any combination of music, dance and drama. The performances that take place in the inner courtyard are classified as wali, the most sacred rituals which are offerings exclusively for the gods, while the outer courtyard is where Bali ceremonies are held, which are intended for gods and people. Lastly, Performances meant solely for the entertainment of humans take place outside the walls of the temple and are called Bali Balayan. This three-tiered system of classification was standardized in 1971 by a committee of Balinese officials and artists to better protect the sanctity of the oldest and most sacred Balinese rituals from being performed for a paying audience. Tourism, Bali's chief industry, has provided the island with a foreign audience that is eager to pay for entertainment, thus creating new performance opportunities and more demand for performers. The impact of tourism is controversial since before it became integrated into the economy, the Balinese performing arts did not exist as a capitalist venture, and were not performed for entertainment outside of their respective ritual context. Since the 1930s, sacred rituals such as the barong dance have been performed both in their original contexts, as well as exclusively for paying tourists. This has led to new versions of many of these performances which have developed according to the preferences of foreign audiences. Some villages have a barong mask specifically for non-ritual performances as well as an older mask which is only used for sacred performances. Balinese society continues to revolve around each family's ancestral village, to which the cycle of life and religion is closely tied. Coercive aspects of traditional society, such as customary law sanctions imposed by traditional authorities such as village councils, have risen in importance as a consequence of the democratization and decentralization of Indonesia since 1998. Gallery. Sports. As part of the Coral Triangle, Bali, including Nusa Penida, offers a wide range of dive sites with varying types of reefs. Bali was the host of 2008 Asian Beach Games. It was the second time Indonesia hosted an Asia-level multi-sport event, after Jakarta held the 1962 Asian Games. Heritage Sites. On June 2012, Subak, the irrigation system for paddy fields in Bali, was enlisted as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Beauty Pageant. Bali was the host of Miss World 2013. It was the first time Indonesia hosted an international beauty pageant, see also. Balinese architecture, Balinese temple, Balinese dance, tourism in Indonesia, references. Bibliography, Debbie Guthrie. Murilot, Juliet and Toe, Irene. Bali, A Traveller's Companion. Editions Didier Millet. ISBN A978-981-4217-35-4. Gold, Lisa. Music in Bali, Experiencing Music, Expressing Culture. New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN A0-19-514149-0. Taylor, Jean Gelman. Indonesia, Peoples and Histories. New Haven and London, Yale University Press. ISBN A0-300-10518-5. Further reading. External links, media related to Bali at Wikimedia Commons, official website.